A very good afternoon to all the participants and a warm welcome to the national webinar on digital innovations in banking, brought to you by Department of Postgraduate Studies and Research in Commerce, St. Aloysius College, Autonomous, Mangaluru. We have with us an expert and today's speaker, Dr. Naveen Kumar K, Faculty, National Institute of Bank Management, Pune. It's my honor to introduce you, sir, to our participants. Dr. Naveen is currently associated with the RBI, RBI's Autonomous Institute, National Institute of Bank Management, Pune. He has around 20 years of academic, executive training, and research experience in the field of economics, banking, and finance. He has an excellent academic track record, which makes him the perfect choice for today's webinar. He is a gold medalist of 1999 batch of MA Economics, Mangalore University. He has a doctorate in economics from the Institute for Social and Economic Change, ISEC, Bangalore. He heads the Department of Rural Finance and Development at NIBM, Pune. He teaches economics for an MBA program, has developed e-learning programs. He has also published 4 books, more than 15 peer-reviewed research articles. He is also the editorial member and reviewer of several internal journals of the NIMB Pune. Dr. Naveen has provided research consultancies for various national and international organizations like the World Bank, UNICEF, UNDP, International Labour Organization, Asian Development Bank, Ministries of Finance, Agriculture, Government of India, RBI, and the NABARD. He has trained more than 7,000 senior and middle level executives through more than 150 management development programs and executive development programs all over the world. We are privileged to host this webinar with such an eminent personality and are eager to get some insights into digital innovations in banking. So please welcome Dr. Naveen Kumar K.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor, for a nice introduction and give me an opportunity to be a part in the virtual webinar. Once again, this is an opportunity. Thanks for St. Aloysius, for the management particularly, including the principal and the I think there are 2 programs I learned from Aloysius on MCOM. One is on data analytics also, or the analytic part of MBA also. So that is a great requirement for the current time. And also I'm seeing a large number of participants are joining to the program also. It shows that both from the student fraternity as well as from the learners point of view, including the faculties or the people who are engaged in various activities of management, economics, or development, including today's time, the health sector particularly, requires to understand the change which is required for the economy. So what I'll do is take an opportunity to speak maybe around 45 to 50 minutes, then we can have a question and answer. I just try to I hope you are able to see the PowerPoint.
Yes, sir.
It is coming to the screen. Okay. One second. I'm not able to. I'm not able to view from my system. So it has come now? No.
Yes.
It is there. But I'm not getting the mode of the PowerPoint. One second. Preview. I'm not getting the PowerPoint. So you are able to see the PPT.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Only thing I'm not able to see from the main portal. So I have to pass through from the other portal only.
Oh.
I have to minimize if there are any questions comes or anything. It is not allowing me
We
to
will
come here.
discuss question and answers at the end, sir. I will
Uh-huh.
moderate the session, question and answer session. I will give you, I will uh, say out loud the questions put in the chat box. You can just answer
Okay,
them.
okay. So, okay, I'll start with, I think you are able to see the PPT, right?
Yes.
Yeah, clear. Okay, thank you. So what I'm doing is I'm touching some important areas of digital innovations in banking. Basically, I'll cover some amount of changes which have taken place in the recent past in the place of payment, particularly the digital payment. Then I'll also speak to some amount of changes taken place in the lending areas. Then we'll also have some connections to the innovations which have that taken place in the case of access to banking services in the digital areas. So basically, I'll cover some about the looking back at the digital trends of banking in India and abroad. Particularly, I'll start from the international perspective, then I'll come to the disrupted business models which are fintechs as well as with the new banks or neo banks called or the open banking system. Then we'll talk about a bit on, because if you the session is not covered on inclusion particularly, then it will be inconclusive session. So I'll also bit connect to the digital financial inclusion and also lending. Then I'll end up with the RegTech and SuperTech, which is also part of the digital innovations coming up under the regulatory technology and supervision technology, which is once again larger policy changes is expected to happen even in India in the areas of RegTech and SuperTech. So I'll conclude with that maybe another 50 minutes. So when we see back to the entire banking changes which have taken place in India or even in the global, so there are various landmarks in the case of banking sector. If you see uh, the banking industry as a in early years of 1980 or prior to 1980, so the banks was once again up to that also bank is an institution which played important role in building the trust, particularly the safety of the money, and the people was believing to have a bank means there is an institution and that is a static which is permanent, and the building and the charter of the organization is very important, the infrastructure is very important. People even used to talk about the currency chest etc in 80s 90s about the strong room. Particularly there is a very important design of the strong room. So there are a lot of things happen in, particularly when I'm talking to the bank 10. So there were trust largely was a people centered trust on the institutions. Then as the demand for the financial services or banking services increased, the expected utility of the banking services also increased. So banks are seen as an how the different types of utility of the people can be served. So there is a increased demand on the utility as well as the banking requirement. So bank did not find a single place where you can park your money or keep the money for the safety. Instead of people started looking for alternative ways of utilization. So in this time, maybe around 1980s or prior to 1990s, uh, there are a lot of changes took place from around 1950 to 80s. So one important change, which was the technological infusion into the banking system. It is not, technology is not a separate entity here. Technology is one of the important arm of the banking sector. Now, why technology is used from the economic point of view? It is an innovation using technology in the forefront of banking activity, particularly meet the increasing demand of the banking system, that is the utility part of the banking system. So to keep up that demand increased, the best example is the 1953 Bank of America, which is the first introduction of the digital part of the technology in the banking system. The mainframe IRMA it is called as, particularly IRMA, that is electronic recording machine for accounting. So this is primarily used for the check processing system, and this is a time where the first kind of what you call accounting system in a numerical number came into picture. And up to that, it is largely static. It is largely card based. If you see, entire know your customer is in a card. Even India had close to 90s card system on KYC. Means if you visit a bank, the bank officer will take a card. Largely some banks used to use the yellow card kind of thing, and there will be complete detail of the or the customer of the bank, and with that they used to do the transactions. Then it will go to the different kind of ledgers based on the transactions. So this time, because of the check processing part, the machines are used to find a digital number, and also the coding was easy to determine and serve increased utility of the banking. So here they also given a account number as such for the customer. So now this made a revolution in the case of bank, and also in the areas of technological use. You would have seen huge machines were used to compute this kind of check processing system. So this is a time where the 1953, particularly this entire technology built by MIT, and it was used. Now, when we move further to around post 80s or mid 80s, now the larger area of self-service banking came in the picture. That is the ATM services. So people slowly gone out of from a banking, a static infrastructure facility to a more of a visible form of technology where you can do some of your transaction, particularly cash withdrawal and other activities in those time, checking of account balance and etc. So that was led to a self-service center where you need not have any human resource to do that one. And also these ATMs are posted in or kept in different places to serve the people or to have an advantages of transactions. So some kind of, it is not completely anywhere banking. Anywhere banking of kind of idea was introduced through the technology, particularly in the mid 80s and post 80s. Coming to the technological front, when we see at the large changes took place when the mobile played very important role. Now, from this point of time, from bank anywhere to any time came into, that is 24/7 and any time, these are very important. But simultaneously, the trust on a charter, that is an institution of kind of a static institution to a more of technology based bank institution has changed. That what I mean is, now or the present time, if you want to see that what is your trust, you want to have 24/7 all kind of banking activity through your mobile or through your internet and etc. So that means people slowly change their trust from an institution to even to the technology which they deployed by the banking institution. So core utility of the bank changed from place to wherever you are or the customers are there. Trust changing from place of bank to set of banking platform technology. So best fitted platform technologies started working globally, and simultaneously India also post 90s or recent last 2 decades would have witnessed a lot of changes in the banking platform. When maybe HDFC initially used the retail kind of segments in the technology, which is the first bank maybe having large scale retail banking through the technology, including onboarding customers, etc. in those times. So people slowly change their trust from a place of a bank to a more of technological platform. Then comes also utility of the bank. It is changed because to determine whether it is a good bank or bad bank is largely determined by how the services are rendered through the banking channel. It is not only just transaction services, the other enabled services also, including grievances. So that played very important role in the case of banking or banking technology, the fraud management, the risk management, as well as the customer protection part of the banking. So this is a time where technology was played in different ways of changing in the banking side. Now, when we see it for who, there was a lot more disruption taken place. So we are recently witnessing this. Globally, this has witnessed almost now 1 decade back, this witness was there. So you have multi-channels. Sometime we are also discussing, or the central bank is also looking for the neo banking or open banking models of operations. And when you are talking open banking model or open banking models, you maybe believed that from 1.0 to 4.0, within maybe 30 to 40 years, there is a larger transformation in banking sector. So when we are talking about open banking or neo banking, there is no bank as an institution as such. I am talking with the physical form. So no branches, only virtual, integrated to many business and services. And largely these are the new age technology banks which are coming into the forefront of banking and financial services. Now, there is very important principle comes in. The well-known economists discuss about the business models of these new age or disrupted technology-led banks. When you are talking, they are largely discussed on the first principles design thinking. Now, whoever is competitive, whoever has disrupted the market, best example may be the Alibaba, which is going to lead large amount of the new banking models in the global sector or in the global. One of the lecture, the CEO of that, he says that for others like Walmart and others requires years to get 10,000 customers. I need a small space of 2 computers to space it, and with the limited time I can have customer acquisition. That means the changes which are disruptive through the technology, the utility will determine the survival of the business models. Very important one. Utility means how best your utility, not only transaction, including the risk and your protection part of that, how the banks are able to manage that one, that determines the bank survival or the business model survival. And also the utility will not it will be static, it will be very dynamic in the future or years to come, because technology is going to change, some more disturbance or the disruptions is going to take place. Now in this juncture, what India is looking for, because we are interested to see from Indian point of view, maybe from here if you see, India is looking for two type of disruptions. One is the existing banks are also modifying their technology, their customer onboarding. You would have heard now recently, almost all banks started with the video KYC. If you see the KYC, know your customer journey, which was more of a person goes to a bank, gives all the records, so many papers. I think someone used to talk about paper kills your banking habit, because that much of papers you have to give to get a bank account opened. That is the compliance required. It is not a bank is asking, it is the regulatory as well as the requirement of the what you call the country which may be looking for the stable banking activity. Where then we slowly moved into, recently we have moved into eKYC. eKYC is based on electronic KYC, maybe the Aadhaar is used or PAN card is used, and now different areas of data is fetched in to get the the customer data, or the particularly the minimum customer requirement for the bank transaction is taken place. But the recent past, particularly post COVID, if you see, or the ones after April, so many banks today started onboarding customer through the video KYC. No need to travel to the branch office, no need to give any records. Because of the video only, they are able to integrate with the required data and information. 360-degree analysis of the KYC could be done. So this is one kind of disturbance or the disruption is taking place, onboarding customers, even lending areas, etc., in the banking side. Simultaneously, there is other side where the large amount of fintechs, there are hundreds of fintechs are registered under the regulator for operation of the banking services, either directly, that is independently, or through the collaboration with the banks. So this is another important disruption taking place from the technological point of view, because fintechs are largely in the present time, either they are the startup or some of them are technological firm which are using the different kind of data or data analytics for getting better what you call utility services for the customers. Now I'll hold this background, maybe I'll take that background little further with some more examples. Now, I also need to see that how this entire ecosystem of digital financial services, whenever I'm referring DFS means digital financial services, how this ecosystem works. Largely, there are different players are there, say it consumers, business, government, or even the financial providers, banks, licensed financial institutions, regulators, and etc. They are part of the entire ecosystem. So, and also very importantly, uh, the entire in the digital ecosystem, people need digital products and interoperable financial products and services, and it needs to be quick, and also it has to be backed up by the advancement of the technologies or the data analytics also. So there is a necessary condition for this is the government needs to play a very important role. The policies of the government, the laws as well as regulations, which needs to be enabled for very good ecosystem of the digital financial services, so that accessibility and affordability and also safety is very important for the customers in the banking system. It also encourages not a what you call small number of customers. The scale up is possible with the multiple players, as well as there is a competitive environment is built through this digital financial services. And the goal is largely of this kind of digital innovations in the banking is of course the safety and security is very important, because it requires a lot of authentication of the data as well as the safety of that. So in this line, if I want to speak maybe a line in the recent past, what is going on is largely there is a smaller intervention is taking place in the areas of blockchain, because the ledger platforms which will enable the or enable greater security for the banks and financial institutions, and also it is easy to make the information secured in different layers of the folders of the areas of the data. And also it will also enable the speed and transparency in the digital platform. Today if you see some of the informations or some of the fintechs or the banks which are lending with the which would have lent in long duration for a week or 1 month time, today they are lending at 24 hours or within 2 to 3 days, because speed and transparency is very easy because of this kind of transformation. Increased flexibility. Now what we talk about the flexibility here, earlier bank is known for people who are having some income. Today it is not the reason. Today bank is for everyone, it is for everyone. We could have seen, particularly after the financial inclusion or the recent past post 2012, the PMJDY, the Jandan account opening, the bank is for everyone, because that need increased flexibility to participate all the people or the population in the country, where that the income or the status, economic status, or the standard of living, these are not the important matters for the banking services. More than that, it is just creating an access, giving the best services of remittance, even loan and other areas, even people don't have savings. And we are going further. There is a lot of disruption is taking place in the savings side also. Digital technologies are intervening with the banking fold also. I'm talking the conventional banking fold, and they're disrupting through the various digital what you call innovations to create better incentive for the savings also. Very important recent past we could see that people who are not banked, people who are not having any credit history in the banking sector or in the financial sector, they could create the history through even social media or even through having public data access, including the payments of utility bills, etc. So digital transformations brought a large mile of changes in the banking sector, particularly creating new areas of lending models, use of the data analytics, and also creating different kind of rating or scoring models out of the data which are captured not only by the bank but from other areas including social and economic areas. One important aspect globally what we are seeing, there is a transformation taking place in the global financial services, that is towards women, creating empowerment. Even our government stressed importance for household led women. If she has account, she will get x amount of benefit and etc. So that has created lot of transformation in financial side. Country like India, largely the ownership of asset is not with the name of women. If you compare like country like Sri Lanka is almost 80-70% of the ownership is with the women. Women owns the assets. Many of the South Asian countries, women doesn't have any resources on her name, including the land. So it is largely in the name of male or in the male person, or maybe a husband, father, etc. So that created a large gap in the access to banking resources, particularly even the credit, where the SHG movement post 1992 led a large amount of change in the banking sector in India and creating empowerment of women to leading to collateralless joint liability lending to the women. Today, these joint liability or the lending to women transferred into the digital platform. NABARD created eShakti, a digital platform for lending to the SHGs. Many banks are created digital platforms for lending to women either in individual capacity or through the group capacity. So financial services played very important role in economic empowerment of women also. Then there is a lot of services you to, I'll skip this one, maybe from the transaction, payment, savings, investment, insurance. When we are talking about the digital financial services or digital disruptions in the banking, it is not just a credit product or savings product. Disruption is all these spheres of financial, including non-financial services. I'll cover some amount of non-financial services maybe in the later part. Now, when we are talking about digital platforms or disruptions, security is a prime requirement. We see that. That's why majority of the Indians are not operating their banking account either through the internet banking or through the mobile banking. There is a huge set of risk, perceived risk by the customers. Because of that, onboarding through the digital platform is the biggest issue. Then also people have maybe one or two cases of frauds, or particularly I'm talking the digital frauds, etc., or phishing by somebody. So they would have encountered some problems, etc., by sharing the OTP or sharing the numbers, etc. So the comfortability for India to move into a secured zone of transaction requires some more time, and also this is needs to be enabled through the financial capability building. So if you see, I'm not only talking about the savings, deposit, all pension, insurance, and everything. So in this line, government has set up an institute in Mumbai. It is by four institutions, Center for Financial Capacity Building. So it is a four institutions: Reserve Bank of India, SEBI, and the Insurance Authority, as well as the pension Parada. So all these four entities played a significant role to create a single body to build the capacity. Why I'm talking this time? So capacity building in a digital platform is very required areas of concentration for the forthcoming years, because you want to onboard the digital part of that, you need to build the capacity also. And it is very affordable. That's why people are migrated to mobile banking. And also, when I'm talking the affordability, it is not just cost of interest rate, it is not cost or just saving some money. It is a lot of opportunity cost involved in the banking transactions, and also the transaction cost, particularly when you are talking the affordability. Convenient, because now we do 24/7, as the central bank of the country also enabled the 24/7 majority of the remittance services or the payment services also. And it is also ideal for everyone. Means digital makes an kind of advantage to participate everyone, like in any sphere of banking services. It is not skewed towards a particular group of people or particular type of borrowers or the account holders. So that makes it is a system of open, where the easy to enter and easy to exit, that is very much required in the digital platform. Exit when the utility is not as per its expectance or as per the competitive rates, automatically customer will exit. If there is a very much of what you call competitive rates are given, services are given, utilities are very high, people may stay back with that kind of virtual situations. So there where we need to see that how this system broadens the large areas or spectrum of changes in the banking areas. And coming back, one very important area in the digital services is the robust system. So we need very robust technology. The new generation technologies are robust, but we may require very robust, where country like India with 1.3 billion population and very large kind of heterogeneity, we have close to say large number of small farmers and around 66.38 million micro enterprises. So it will be very large areas to give the services to the industry or in the areas of people are engaged. So the changes which are robust, which is required for the upcoming years. I stayed back in my backdrop when I was starting with the particularly coming to the banking system in the 4O. If you see, I just introduced there the new bank or the open bank. So new bank or open bank, it is taking globally a new foot in the banking and financial services. India is also, I think, going to have regulations and also looking for different kind of players in the open banking. Already, some of the banks are merging to that side of operations. If you see, there are institutions like Revolt, Chime, and if you see from Asia also, Neat, MyBank, so and others like Zibuan from Japan. So they are looking for operations as a new bank. New bank is largely the digital bank, where you don't have any infrastructure in the physical form, all infrastructures in the vertical form. So that means physical form of banking infrastructure, which was there as a trust building, has gone ahead with lot of changes with the modern banking, particularly open banking is coming in. Now, here comes the competition with the conventional banks, fintechs, and open banking. If you see the globally, today, not many countries are discussing on fintech, but India is discussing a lot on fintechs. We are not discussing much on open banking. But the advanced countries, like if you see Korea, Japan, and many of the developed countries today discussing more on open banking, including China, is discussing more on open banking or neo banking. Reason is that they are already passed off the fintech model of banking to a next generation kind of banking, which is largely a virtual banking beyond the fintech's models. So there where digital disruption is going to disrupt the conventional banking if the conventional banks doesn't make their changes in technology in many areas, the areas of customer onboarding, the credit overwriting, insurances, on remittance services, credit deployment, and also customer protection, feedback system. We don't have a feedback system. Feedback may be there, but though there is no data analytics taking place on the feedback, what feedback we have given on any forum of the banking services, who gives a analytical results on that, and based on that decisions are taken. Very few, I believe. Largely some of the private sector may be adopting that, but very nascent in the areas of feedback. Now feedback is nothing but your utility measurement. You would have measured your utility either very bad or very good kind of ideas, which you get into thousands, lakhs of customers are giving their feedbacks in different platforms. So that needs to be analyzed to understand, to change the models of banking operations. Data deployment is the new age, what we are discussing. Lot of things are taking place in adopting the new age technologies, and which are disrupting the banking sector or the financial service sector. And big data analytics will bring a large amount of changes in lending, changes in customer onboarding, changes in credit overwriting, and many other areas. If you see some of the example, if I want to give the disruptions currently taking place in India, one area is MSME, or large segment of fintechs or the new age companies are working in areas of MSME lending. Now, why MSME? MSME is one of the important engine of our growth or economic growth, because it is to contribute, or even the last, if you see the budget of the government or the annual what you call budget plan of the government, it was close to around 45+%, 48% contributed to the GDP, and it is one of the very important area. If you see post March, MSME is a hard hit sector by the corona, or because of the virus attack. Because the reason is that if you see large amount of small micro units are operating. If you see the number, informal, which are quite large number, 630 lakh units are operating in India, which are micro in nature. Within this, 99% are informal enterprises. They are not what you call regulated by, or they are not registered. So this segment is largely out of banking fold. Only globally, if you see the World Bank data, not only India, globally, only 10% of the enterprises which are in micro are able to access the banking services. Now, next 90% is not able to access. Reason are many, because banks are not very comfortable to give the credit, which are in informal. Size is very small. It is also called as the missing middle segment. Neither the microfinance institutions nor the banks are concentrating that area, and the requirement is are very small, 50,000, 25,000, 10,000 rupees to operate, even 5,000 to operate maybe daily variable cost based model. A vegetable vendor or a street vendor doesn't need 5 to 10,000 rupees, because he don't want to take a lakhs of rupees to invest on that. His model is variable cost, means he'll buy something in the morning, sell it, and evening he'll pay back the interest or the money we have borrowed. So this segment is completely neglected, as well as this is not came into the picture of giving banking side of priority. Now, with the new technology, with the fintech introductions, now they are slowly onboarding. If you see the recent government programs to lend to the street vendors, also picking up slowly. And if you see the data, there are lots of crores of, I think I was just seeing some 2 days back, around 15 lakh applications have come. I think around 8 lakh or 6 lakh applications already dispersed. So we can see that there is a huge demand, and this is once again only a certain group of people only are having information that there will be loan for them, or they can access a loan from the government, which is subsidized one. Majority of the once again enterprises, since they are informal, they don't have financial information. Asymmetries of information is a large. So this is one of the important sector where government central bank is giving high priority for deployment of credit, and also simultaneously the technology is playing very important role. So this is the pyramid you can see here. The the below one, where unorganized thin files are there, thin files because they don't have formal data, credit histories are not there, and there is also a lot of micro enterprises have working seasonal based, and maybe what you call entrepreneur based. If you see the number, it's a large 63 million is a very 63.38 million, it is very large. And MFIs are not having that much of capacity to lend them. That's why. And also human judgment for asset income estimations is difficult. You need some more things to be estimated. So those places, the new generation companies are looking for the new age technologies to determine, and there where the scope is there. Now this sector is very important for India because this is a huge employment coming from this sector. And since the number of people are engaged, which has what you call very strong forward linkages to the small enterprises, medium enterprises, and large enterprises like automobiles, or even take any of the industry, including medicine or the food processing industries, etc. So this the lower segment is actually the blood of an economy, which needs to be circulated frequently. Without that, economy will not run. So this economy needs lot of financial and non-financial services to fuel the engine of growth. That fuel is coming only from the micro enterprises and small enterprises, both from the enterprise employment side as well as from the sustainability side. Now this area, and I'll also add one more there in the within that bottom when I'm referring to the MSME or the micro enterprises. If you see India, another important segment, that is the small and marginal farmers. So this segment also, if you see the recent data of central bank that I'm referring to the RBI and other places, more than 50-60% of the small and marginal farmers are not getting formal finance. Why? Once again, they are very small because of the land holding. If you see the land holdings, it's almost 1 hectare. That means around 2.5 acres. That is a national average, which means very small land holding, which doesn't give them the access to finance, or even they want to access is very small amount. So they cannot do any economic activity with that small amount of lending, because there is a scale of finance enabled through the district credit committee or the lead district module. So it will be very difficult to enable with that kind of credit. So this is another important segment. Large number of farmers, 85% of the farmers in India is small and marginal. So that segment and micro enterprises, if these two segments are covered in India, so India will be a progressive economy. We can expect even a 5 trillion economy if these two segments contribute to the economy and also sustain the economy. Now, when I'm talking about digital changes which took place, particularly with the recent past, with the application of the big data, and getting the data which were now not seen. Even if share a mobile number, with that the fintechs can assess your credit, what you call credit history, as well as even they can determine in your SMS how many SMS are going on alerts, how many SMS are coming as your account has debited or credited. From that alerts, they are creating the credit scoring mechanism. So large set of social and the utility bills and others, including insurance, etc., phone. So these are creating the data for the bank. But going little further, not only these data, today if you see, you would have read like recently ICICI has gone with the big data analytics for agriculture lending. That is using even the satellite images, the geo mapping or geo tagging kind of things. You can even assess the productivity of the land, not only present or the future, even last 10 years data. You can collaborate from that, and you can assess this information, that what is the productivity of the land, what was grown the fast. That is the beauty of the data. What was grown, what was the on an average productivity, what was the rainfall, what is the soil condition, what is the moisture, and what is the yield in that area. So many things are today gathered through the big data, and these data is coming to the lending decision. Very important. Now these open banking or new data, these are giving the larger footprint of data changes. If you see last 2 years, 80+% of the data is created in the world. This is the World Bank I'm telling. 80% of the data, digital data, is created last 2 years. That means the data footprint which are coming from the different area, not only from social media and other areas, including weather forecasting, rainfall, or even enterprise linkages, export demand, many things, including the water resources. All these are coming together to take a credit decisions. So there is a high intensity to give the rating and also make the accuracy of the lending. So that is the beauty of the changing in the models of lending in the recent past. So going ahead of this, this is I explained because there is now fast changes which have taken place, and also because of the very fast decision taking with the data. I was reading some time back. Now, even for, you would have heard search report. Bank asks, suppose you have taken a housing loan or some enterprises loan, there will be search report by the banks. Search report requires around 1,000 to 1,500 hours of work for a lawyer. Today, within a fraction of minutes, with the help of machine learning or AI, they are computing that data within very limited time. That means the man hours are saved and the decisions are very quick. And also, very important is better customer experience. Creating that is very significant in the banking, including for the poor. Poor will be trusted banks only when he gets on time, on his place, or that is called the doorstep banking, as quicker as possible. So government recently, in the last, I think a week back, announced on doorstep banking through the public sector. It's a huge change is expected through that with the digital platform, with the business correspondent or the agent model, which is going to make a larger amount of digital footprint to the farmers or even for the entrepreneurs. So these are some of the fintech models, alternative lending models which are coming in. Various platforms are coming in to take the data, and that data is collaborated. To give an example, if the last, if you see, that is trades, that is trade receivables discounting system. If you see any MSME which is registered through the trades, there are three institutions are there. Under trades, it's a regulated body once again under RBI. So any my MSME is registered here. So if they are putting their bills in that trades, so some financier will give the loan on the basis of that receivables, or the based on the bills received on that. That is, it is once again very quick. It is a digitally transformed. Maybe around 60 odd crores of money was lent in the last year, or last year. This year maybe little more. So that means the quickness of digital platforms which made huge differences. Trades is once again a very innovative model where the central bank, as well the central bank of the country, as well as the banks are participating, including the large corporate are participating in the bills discounting or bills receivables. Likewise, in the different fintechs are using different kind of models, either independently or with the banks, with the what you call partnership model with the banks or the NBFCs. They're enabling different kind of models to lend. E-commerce is another important area. You would have seen how different banks are coming into the e-commerce platform also. If you see, I was just yesterday seeing the fee income and interest income. There is a huge jump for the banks on the fee income. That means banks once upon a time a model of interest income based lending, or interest income based income generation or profit orientation. Today, it is also shared by the lot on the interest income, along with that fee income based. So this is another area where banks are concentrating to improve the fee income, and also make the better or convenience to the customers to even get into different experience through even the e-commerce or in the logistic and other areas. So there is now a lot of talks going on, whether is a collaborative approach with the disruptive technologies coming with the fintechs, or it is a standalone competitive environment. Some are expecting, since fintech may not have that much of capital, so collaborative model will be more on win-win situation to leverage the growth of the country. Even many people expect that there should be a more on collaborative model or partnership model, because a lot of things has to be learned from the conventional banks, from the financial side, as well a lot of things has to be learned from the new technologies from the fintechs. Both are having advantages and disadvantages, so there will be a close partnership based these two institutions as a benefit for the economy and totality. So I will give one of the example how these the AI or artificial based learning API models are coming in the banking models. This is an example of Atyati. Atyati is based in Bangalore. It is once again a large fintech company which just takes 360-degree panorama view of the through a mobile phone of a shop. Imagine a shop which doesn't have any bills. Imagine there is no bill for you to or no data on the what you call the owner to give you any information. The image captures the items kept in the shop. Based on the image, takes out what is the stock in the store. That is the store value, that is the stock value of the store is determined. It is accuracy around close to 75% to 90%. Based on that stock value, the fintechs or the banks are lending. So imagine there is no other data, just because of the capturing of the image, and image is led through the artificial intelligence, whether it is a Lux soap or it is a particular brand, what you call paste, or a milk powder, whatever, or whatever the grocery. Based on that, it identifies the brand and gives the image data input to the system. From that the value of the stock is taken place. So this is a disruption. So these small vendors were not going, so the technology goes to there, just the agent just maps the online data capture, the system captures that, and AI gives that kind of immediate stock results. Then even you verify it is close to 80-90% accuracy in the determining the value of the stock. So stock based working capital can be given to these kind of small enterprises. So also Atyati uses for the dashboard to understand the collection is the biggest challenge for the micro institutions like NBFCs, MFIs, etc. So cash management or even the managing the collection is big task for them. Lot of innovation is going on that line also. Even machine learnings are used to know that to identify for the agents how they can work, what are the areas they have to see, how much you have to today's task is given. So everything is mechanically managed. So machine learning plays a very important role in there also. So there are challenges. We'll discuss maybe in the end of that also. So I was discussing largely when from the paper to more of digital transformation taken place. The turnaround time is reduced. Largely earlier person oriented, today it is more process oriented. Earlier it is a limited scale because one person, one officer is serving for 100, 200, 500 customer. Today one computer or one small mobile phone may be serving thousands of customers. So it is a mass. Scalability is possible, and mostly the fintech companies and others are enabling to this line. Now couple of slide I am, because since we are talking about India made enormous advantages in the digital route of mass banking. If you see the recent past, this is how, particularly after the National Payment Corporation of India, NPCI, come, the things have changed in India in the digital platform. Today, NPCI, the RuPay card particularly, is almost taking head of Visa or the MasterCards. Why? This fee for the any bank transaction fee which are paid for the remittance or the card usage is very high because it is international cards, Masters or Visa. Today, vis-a-vis, we are using domestic RuPay card, including they have introduced the credit card also. So you can see that huge amount of changes have taken place. Say it IMPS, say it about the UPI that is recently came in, one of the what you call mass changes in your P2P payment or government payment and etc. Peer-to-peer payments have large disruptions in Indian market after the introduction of UPI. Today, because of the coronavirus, we go to a shop or go to a vegetable vendor, fruit vendor, or a small shop, including medicine shop, etc. We just scan and come. So behind this entire work, the National Payment Corporation of India, this is one of the very, very innovative technological disruptions in Indian economy through introduction of various things, including domestic cards and various wallets, the real-time interoperable systems and many things. With that, we could achieve a large mile of financial inclusion and also the record the Alma of in the areas of Guinness record by PMJDY financial inclusion. We are just 4 or 5 years back around 20% plus we are in the financial inclusion. Today we are almost close to 90% financial inclusion in the country. At least we have account opening. So it is a large mile. If you see the first important aspect, account and the services as well as the devices. Then we also had second important milestone is the PMJDY, the Aadhaar and the that is a JAM Trinity, Jandan, Aadhaar and mobile, which made a huge changes in the banking system. JAM Trinity brought a new perspective for India in the global economy. Today, you review any of the global records, either from IMF or even World Bank or Asian Development Bank, all the places, the JAM Trinity is well witnessed, and the change mile we took place post 2014, particularly thanks to technology, thanks to use of Aadhaar and enabled systems, which made the banking system largely disrupted. And the particularly from the NPCI, the change because of the RuPay card. Today, everyone may be having a card, almost Indians, and which are our card. That it is very pride for us to use. That is, it is our card. It's a domestic card, and also the Aadhaar enabled payment system (AEPS) as well as UPI unified payment interfaces, which brought the digital transformation in the billions of India. And quickly, if you see the numbers, you can see that is a huge change in the numbers, which is coming into the because of the role of NPCI, and which brought destructive changes in the areas of cooperatives, in areas of RRBs, rural banks, even into the commercial banks. This I discussed. So AEPS, once again I discussed. This is Bhim Aadhaar. Once again, that is another important area where government introduced this one. And the UPI made a lot of changes. We are witnessing and we are taking that advantage of the UPI seamless transactions 24/7. And you can see some of the numbers. This is up to 20. The total transactions in millions, 45,720 millions transaction took place in 1920 financial year. So even if you can see different areas, UPI alone took 518 millions transaction in 1920. So I'll just skip some of the things. Now one more area, which is in the rural side, what is happening? Rural digital for transformation is taking place, particularly with the help of APS, enabled payment, the micro ATMs it is called. With a very small device like a mobile phone, the business correspondents or the bank mitras are doing the transaction at the doorstep. The technology has gone to the doorstep of the poor also, if they are not able to use the mobile phones. Of course, the mobile banking, which is another important area I discussed in the initial time also, so which brought into a lot of changes, particularly introduction of IMPS, which made the disruptions in the banking side also. Now, this is some of the data. If you see the digital lending also, which is expected to be 350 US billion in 2023. So this is where we are forecasting. Currently, we are around 110 to 150 billions US dollar in the Indian market, which we are currently doing. So last section, maybe I'll take another 2-3 minutes. It's already 4. So that is a regulatory sandbox on the regulatory and regtex and supertex. So now this is a very important area. The central bank or the Reserve Bank of India is looking for various kind of regulatory technology for using the technology as to manage compliance. Particularly very important is the compliance, on risk management, then also the fraud and risk management in the banking sector. So now what this entire thing speaks us is RegTex or the SuperTex helps the central banks to determine the compliance management, that is to see that whether all the operating, that is the stakeholders, including the various financial institutions in the country, are operating as per the regulatory norms or the compliance of the country. So to check that, it is easy to go through the new form of regulatory technology, and also see that whether the fraud and other detections coming out in the banking sector within the bank or across the banks, so that will help in the real time to determine the risk in happening those areas in digital transactions. So RegTex has an important role in there also. Supervision is largely a supervisory technology to supervise. It is kind of the activities of the banks to see that whether like the complaints are led as per that, whether they are looking at the KYC of the customers, anti-money laundering, etc., etc. So it is important from the perception of that risk management. Looking at that, the SuperTex also playing a very important role. And it is very important that not only the financial institutions, central bank also requires very sophisticated technology, which particularly today's time we call on regulatory sandbox. It is once again a new innovation of customized reporting platform for firms regulator, where the regulatory sandbox will help the regulator to determine various kind of compliance related to the fintechs. So that will enable them to manage better financial or financial institutions, banks and financial institutions in the country. And make very important concern is the objective is the stability, that is a financial stability. If there is a stability in the financial system, then there is a stability in the economy. So that to determine that stability in the financial system, you need very robust as well as advanced technology to manage various kind of risk coming from the new technologies as well as from the conventional mode of lending also. With this, I conclude my this session, which will be maybe opened for the questions. I have taken 5 minutes. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a great session.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see a lot of comments appreciating this session.
Okay.
They're saying it's very informative. People have some questions.
Okay. Sure. Sure.
First question is from Dr. Priya S. Shetty.
Okay.
She wants to know what are the schemes for individual women for promoting women empowerment.
Women empowerment. Okay.
Yes.
So this is once again, if you're talking from the banking side, for the or from the financial side, there are large number of government programs are targeted towards the women. Now, how this works, that is very important from the point of view of understanding. So each state is running through the state bank, that is SLBC, it is called State Level Bankers Committee, and each district, like the district of Mangalore or DK, also has a SLBC. Now it is not SLBC, the district level, that is called the lead district officer or LDM office. So there are many projects which comes targeting towards women. SHG, JLG, one of the oldest model which targeted for women empowerment or women building. Today, the majority of the government schemes are targeted towards, or the bank lending is targeted towards women. Say it may be small enterprise building, even you have different programs for women enabled enterprise lending also. which is targeted either from the state government or from the central government through the banks. So now whenever talking about the schemes are largely not bank driven, it's a government driven, but it is done through the banks. It is a very important point. uh, in the perspective of women empowerment, from the training perspective, each district has a RCT or the root city in the country. So that is important part of the skill building, capacity building. Then each district has an FLCC, that is the financial literacy counseling and literacy counseling centers in each district. So that takes care of the skill and counseling part. The next comes within, I think, if you see the recent introduction of many schemes on MSME or micro enterprises, including, I believe, even the fishery programs like Mangalore or Udupi or many part of the coastal part of the country, where fisherwomen are able to access bank-led credit, even through the KCC, that is Kisan Credit Card. So from agriculture perspective, there are already targeted schemes there which are running for the women or women development or women economic and social well-being, as well as from the government side also the programs which are routed through the banks, which are also going simultaneously.
Okay. Next question by Dr. Priya was on the duplicity of accounts because of financial inclusion.
Okay.
She says that financial inclusion has led to duplicity of accounts. She wants
Mhm.
your opinion in this
Okay,
regard.
it is right. So we call multiple accounts. Now, only thing, I think we also have multiple account. I believe all of us also have a multiple account. So why can't the poor person cannot have a multiple account? Only thing, they cannot have two PMJDY account. That is not possible. Okay, so it is very important. They cannot have two PMJDY account because it is Aadhaar linked. So Aadhaar can be linked to anyone. Whichever is linked recently will consider as the Aadhaar linked account. That account only the money will come, the remittance will come to that only. So, but the concern would have been, I have not spoken on that line. Concern would have been if two accounts are there, one account is not operative, then it is a concern. It is a cost to the bank, cost to the economy. So that line we need to take a call. I think with the data and other things, we may be able to understand that. I'm talking inoperative bank accounts, not two accounts. Imagine there are two or five accounts. Two accounts or one account is not operating. So that means non-operative or inoperative accounts leads to a lot of economic cost to the bank or to the economy. So there where we need to cut the cost. The technology is going to cut that cost automatically. There are things are coming up with the banks which automatically detects and also takes out the extra accounts of the customers also. With, of course, with the concern with the customer. Yeah.
Yes, sir. We have two questions on MSMEs
Okay.
by Mr. Jishnu. He wants you to throw some light on the 20 lakh crore scheme announced by the central government to boost the MSMEs. And Ms. Jayanti wants to know whether restructuring of the loan of these MSMEs is okay during this pandemic.
Okay. Two sides, two questions are there. The Atmanirbhar is focusing on with that 20 lakh. There is already a lot of work is going on with the banks and financial institution, even with the regulator, enabling for easy access to credit for MSMEs and etc. So you would have heard a lot of fintechs today's time are involved with the banks to make this as faster as possible with reaching out newer micro enterprises. Thanks to GST and thanks to the digital transformation which took place in the recent past, GST has given a lot of data now. Because of GST, a lot of formalization has taken place. So Atmanirbhar is enabling in that line. Of course, see what is happening. We should also understand that MSMEs are not in now investment mode because fixed capital mode is very difficult right now. So it's largely on a variable cost model. So right now they are looking only to work, that is working capital. So work and invest, the two different aspects. They are more on concentrated on working capital. If they are able to access easy access to, like the MSME, which government introduced 59 minutes, is one of the landmark change in the digital form of banking, which easy access to process and everything banks have led. Mudra is another area which enabled that one. The recent one is the vendor credit also. So with this, MSME has some kind of what you call benefits to get into the sector. Of course, there are challenges because see, MSMEs you can lend provided their value chains are connected. Because of the disruptions, I'm talking the COVID disruptions, the value chain is disrupted. As the value chain, I'm talking the product flow. As the value chain of the product flow is disrupted, the financial cycle also will disrupt. So this is what we are witnessing. To enabling the product flow, then the cash flows, that is the financial flow, is required both simultaneously. Then it will take the enablement. So it is not just bank's role, there is also role of the large corporates who are buying the products from them. The running activity as running, because still we are in the new normal. So that may take some more time to come into the position where better credit taking may be possible with them. Another question came into the, I think the Atmanirbhar, or the, I think the rescheduling of the loan or postponement of the payment. It is very important that the recent areas of the disruption is unexpected. Now, see, postponement is okay, but at what cost? It is a cost to the economy, a cost to the system. How long you can keep it? Unless we repair the system, that is, I'm talking about the value chain of the MSMEs, because MSMEs cannot consume themselves. Somebody has to consume, either the big industries or the market economy or direct consumer. So making that enablement is very important. Of course, restructuring is required. It's already done also some part. So, but that is simultaneously required to build that line. Along with that, what you call credit. Now, restructuring or the delay, if it is the capital is delayed because of the restructure, MSME cannot operate. So you need to simultaneously pump the new capital for the MSME to have fresh loan also. So that is very important in this point of time. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Some more questions.
Yeah.
Um, Mr. Manoj Kumar wants to know, despite these innovations, why we are not able to minimize banking frauds and NPAs.
Banking frauds and MPAs. Okay.
NPAs.
Yes. Okay. See, banking frauds are, it is uh, continuous based. Now, what is fraud? Basically, fraud is all fraudsters are, even you introduce a new system, they'll try to hack or do some more advancement in the technology to get into the benefit of the what you call or the because of the greed or short time money, etc. They're still able to do that. Now, fraud management is not what you call a single bank or person, or it is not a role of alone the central bank or the commercial bank. The fraud alignment is a system. Say it for India, it is the role of everyone to manage that one. So you get something, you have some information, it's better to inform it to the police or to the fraudsters. So this line capacity building is very important. It is not single entity role in managing the fraud. Today, suppose some phone calls comes, can you share? As just OTP has come, please give that OTP. So people blindly give that. That whether you can say that it's the role of the, or because of bank I'm giving the OTP. No, it is a system. So I'm talking entire population or ecosystem. So it is a ecosystem has to be address that. Entity of financial institution alone cannot do. So you need a very good curriculum in the schools or in the colleges on the digital banking or the banking, including the frauds, including managementing of frauds, etc. Simultaneously, when you're talking about the NPA also, hope so. See, whatever the NPAs are coming up to the recent, it is largely these loans are not because of the digital one. See, risk NPA will always be there. Whenever you lend, some risk will be there. Don't think all business will be 100% return will come. All business has a risk. Because of the risk only, there is a risk weighted interest is given. So NPA is not a bad factor of any business. It is like you are not always scoring 100 marks. So you are scoring 95, 90, 80. So there may be some portion of NPA. NPA is that one particular segment of the customers are having some risk. But if you are talking about default, that is known default, like what we are witnessing with the Malya's case or the Nirav Modi's case, that is different from NPA. So those are, if you are able to manage the fraud from that line, NPA from that line, it is very important. It's systemic. Once again, you need very good compliances, regulatory norms, even to manage those kind of accounts, or even to see that all big credit loans process through various ledgers with the technology, so that will enable the better rating or better credit risk also. Yeah.
Uh, a question regarding the same. There is one Mr. Kumar asking, why is this attitude of banks on loan recovery is different for a common man and the corporates?
I'm
Why
not
it
getting what
is?
is. Yeah, yeah.
Why these loan recovery methods are enforced mostly on the common man? It's there is no problem in enforcing these things, but when it comes to corporates, banks fail and it goes as NPAs. Why it
Okay,
happens mostly?
okay, okay, okay. I don't have a comment on that because see, I think his question is maybe from the perspective of a citizen is a valid, because enforcements are very quick, very rude in the case of very common man, a poor farmer or entrepreneur, but not as in the case of corporates. That is what maybe is the question. Corporates are not paying on time and etc. Exactly, you are right. Some portion, it is not rude for the customers, or maybe coercive powers are not used by the banks to the even for borrowers also. I don't think in India we would have not made any coercive power for the from the banking side for the farmers and etc. We are still very better economy compared to the lending to the farmers, because our system of recovery is far better than many of the countries in the globe. However, when we are managing the corporate, I think he is right. We have not managed better in the case of corporates. There may be system of what you call the due diligence, which is conducted by the bank on the big ticket loans. It some of the cases which are witnessing in the recent past is not accurate. Even you see the Nirav Modi's case, it's largely one person managed the entire bank credit for a long time, the foreign desk of that. So that means the banks which are managing the large ticket loans, which are not accurately manage their due diligence, and when your large ticket loans has a different segments of management as compared to the small ticket loans. Small ticket loans are easy to manage, and large ticket loans are very difficult to manage because of involvement of cross border and other things, maybe exchanges and etc. So the skill required for those kind of management, we need to, I think, still more progress. The compliance and due diligence system in large ticket loans or the corporate loans needs to be still more accurate and also robust in the Indian system. That is only we can expect the future time to have better due diligence followed for the corporates also, and implementation. Not only following, implementation is very important. Thank you.
So only two more questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Mr. Yadav wants to know which banks fund these unicorns or these private startups. And then the other two questions are on mergers of banks. There were 12 and they are planning to reduce it to 5. How all these things work to achieve a 5 trillion US dollar economy?
Okay. First question is, I think today's time, many even the small banks are. If you see recent advertisement by ISAF, ISAF is a small finance bank based in Thrissur, very close to Mangalore in the other side. they also made a large what you call enablement to as a kind of competition. Even for the new startups, almost all banks are lending to this new startup. Only thing, your idea is very important, and also creating value or utility for the banks or financial institutions. So there are many banks today's time, even for the new generation startups or the fintechs. There are financiers are there. Particularly small entities are looking for new ideas for financing. So there are enough. I think enough players are there. Only thing, you have to give very good idea. Second is the part of the mergers. If my sessions, if you would have listened carefully, I am also hinting like a global economy. Maybe future we may not count banks. I don't know whether we are going to count banks. We have the 1 lakh cooperative societies. We have around 50 RRBs, 49 or 50 RRBs. We have around 20 public sector or around 30, close to 30 private sector banks, etc. So I think this number will be now immaterial, whether it is 5 banks, 1 bank, or 10 banks, or 20 banks. Service availability for all the customers, it is very important. If we would have seen the digital transformation taking place in the open banking system, some of the countries already, see, China is already taken a large changes in uh, what you call digital lending. So your numbers are, I think, automatically after maybe 10 years or 5 to 10 years, we don't know where we will be heading, how many banks will be left to in a competitive environment. Imagine some foreign banks comes with the only technology. It may disrupt entire economy with the new technologies. So mergers, yes, for time being, yes, there may be a economical advantage. There may be changes in the what you call policies and other thing. Otherwise, I don't think if you see the from the technological point of view, numbers may not make much changes today. You may not be knowing some fintechs names which are lending in your place. It may be in Mangalore also, because they may be going through the technology platform to lead to the what you call borrower or the customer, etc. So that means we are seeing a transformation in the areas of structural banks, or numbering the banks to a digital bank or virtual bank or neo banks or open banks. So there, I don't think the number is very important, but the utility services, 100% inclusion for all kind of services, not only banking services. Even today, farmers can lend, give the product. Like you would have heard enam. I have not gone into many digital places. Enams have come to make this kind of facility to give the for the larger advantages. The other point is the 5 trillion economy. Since I think COVID may be a bit difficult. Otherwise, we would have had a target, but uh, still we have making changes. We may be having very slow progress another year, but still it may not be, I think, as quickly achieved the 5 trillion economy, because this is a huge or a larger break we got in this time. Almost a year now we are witnessing very slow growth from all the perspective, say it from MSME side, large corporate side, even agriculture side. Production is good, but marketability is important. Even government is allowing for the farmers for the with the abolition of APMC Act and everything. There are a lot of advantages are coming in. Folding into the what you call total economical gain is very important in this point of time. So I believe it may take some more time. Whatever expected within that time may be a bit difficult to get into the 5 trillion economy. Yeah.
We'll be ending the question and answer session. Uh, hope the speaker has answered all the questions.
Any other questions are there?
Uh,
I think there is a question from Dinakar. Dinakar, my question is how knowledge management aspects digitals in today's banking sector. I think this is a larger issue. I think Dinakar, knowledge management or capacity building is one of the very important aspect in digital platform. Half of the population doesn't have banking knowledge. Now we are bringing digital knowledge. So we need robust knowledge sharing through mobile, through TV, or whatever the digital form they're using, smartphones, etc. We need innovation in knowledge management also. That is, we call financial capability building or financial literacy. We call financial scaling in areas of knowledge and etc. is very much. So that will determine a very competitive environment of economy.
So there is one more question.
Yeah.
One more question, then we'll end the session. Digital innovation is happening in the banking sector. Currency circulation to GDP ratio is steadily increasing in the country. Do you think India cannot become fully digital with respect to payments?
With respect to payments. Yeah, I think Ashwini is asking us. This is right. See, India is largely a cash-driven economy. You would have seen the time of banning of 500 and 1,000 rupees, how disrupted the economy with that. It is not easy, but if you see the cost of cash management for the country is very, very high. It is close to around, I don't know, maybe 5-6% of GDP. It is a very large cost for the economy. Digital progress is required. We may not achieve within 1 year or 5 years. Many countries are slowly, and country like India, which has close to 6 lakh plus villages, it is not that easy to drive out the cash or the the physical cash from the economy. And majority of the things are because it's a trust. Once again, trust is as I discussed with the one trust is on currency today. Maybe slowly people will come. Today people in rural area also slowly recharging their mobile through the mobile wallet and other areas. Slowly, it may not be that much, but people may come into. But fortunately, with the coronavirus, people are slowly, at least the urban metropolitan economy, people are scared to go to the ATM because of the spread and other thing. Of course, there is a requirement of the knowledge. The cost of capital is very high. Cost of currency is very high. We need to transfer. It is a requirement. It is not that it will happen in a one day. Slowly, with the new ages, we can also manage the what you call fraud, not frauds, the uh, what you call retapism, bribery, and many other areas from the digital, because that creates a footprint. And if you are slowly economy is transferring from the cash to cashless economy, we can witness maybe another decade time, we may be at least around 60% if digital, 40% cash, or even 50%. 50-50 also okay for India, because we need some kind of cash. Slowly, many places, the acceptance is very important. Digital cash, it is not that people are not ready. The acceptance is very important in the digital time, where people has to accept the digital cash. So why they don't accept? Because the convenience, because convertibility. Anytime can, I think in if you see in Africa, like in even in Kenya, it is very easy to convert. You go to a shop, you can get a currency. You can give a currency, the shop will give a digital cash. So this convertibility, mutual interoperability is very important in the cash. Of course, we have, particularly youth, have huge what you call areas to work on this economy, where you can minimize today time of scams and other things related to the coming in the cash economy, particularly the black economy. We can also mitigate. So that is also, it is once again concern. Youth can transform India. That is large, because we have around close to 40-45% is a youth economy. So if you can give the capacity building knowledge to them, what I think Dinakar was asked earlier, if you build them, it is automatically another 5-10 years the new economy will be the youth economy, which will be they are the producers and also larger consumers. They are going to transfer the economy with the digital economy. Yeah. Coming in the cryptocurrency, I think it will change. There are very, very regulatory concerns are country technique because the currency in some countries is having of so it take time to test. We see that the government cannot uh, tested